Okay, thank you, Pankaj.
Thank you. Maybe just a show of hands, how many API developers in the room? Platform engineers? Both? And none? Okay. So this talk is about the right composition to form a foundation for delivering APIs. When you start a transformation journey, lots of companies are doing that nowadays. And it has the lens of a platform engineer, which I'm mostly nowadays. You can call me Panky if that name is too cryptic out there. I'm talking nearly after 5 years on a big stage. Last time it was a camera club, so it was much more friendlier. So be nice. And that picture actually is the one in production. It's been 5 years, taken by a 5-year-old. What you see here, the beard, the long hair, this is all experiments. It's probably beta, alpha. If it starts to look like George from Seinfeld, not happening. And if it starts to look like Kramer, why not? Oh yeah. And for all who know the show really well, this might be a talk about nothing. So Digizoo is a zoo of mostly smarter people than me. We focus on enabling anything and everything in the banking and fintech space. Championed by one of our lead architects, we try not to sell the Kool-Aid to our customers right from day one, once we get engaged in the pre-sales. We have to, of course, drink a lot of Kool-Aid out there on the web and filter the noise. I thought we all have some pet projects, and maybe I'll cite a successful one, which I had, before I delve into the topic, because it's quite relevant. So earlier during COVID, we were fortunate to get a house. It came with a bonus, a swimming pool. Of course, that was also the elephant in the house. It will constantly chew power. So the no-brainer first project was to put a solar panel up there. Now, installers are installers, so he gave me a panel called, or rather the inverter called GoodV. I don't know from where, but so I was worried, how would I get hold of the data of what energy it's generating? But fortunately, they have a free API. They don't care because they don't have a vision of their APIs. So that was easy. The next thing was, one second, sorry. The next simple thing in this oldish house was I had to just buy a Bunnings $20 Alex switch, and that's the smart switch in the middle, which will step in between the power supply and the pool pump. And then I repurposed a Raspberry Pi I had to teach my younger one some computation things, to install Home Assistant. Now, Home Assistant is something which you can use to basically do things which you can't do in Google Home or Alexa or HomeKit. Sorry, I'm not an Apple fanboy, but so basically, so of course it's a big community out there for Home Assistant, so that was also easy. And then I had to just use its simple console to build a couple of automations. So the automation at hand for this one is only when the solar is generating like 4.5 kilowatts, because I have other devices, turn on the pool pump, and otherwise keep it off. So with that, it was very easy to monitor and manage this part, because Home Assistant gives you a good high user level, not log level view of things. So that was easy to, sorry, better keep this aside. Now, of course, this was working just at home on my Wi-Fi network. So the next thing I had to do is to make it available on the move. And that's where a good guy, he had written a Medium article on how to use Cloudflare and Unix firewalls for free to achieve that. So that did the final hop. So in hindsight, let's probably have a look at the factors towards the success of this side hustle. So first of all, it's built on rock-solid primitives. So be it Unix firewalls, be it a smart switch, it's still a switch. They do their basic things very well. What I'm relying on is more or less stable APIs. The inverter will always tell me the data. It's on my home network. It will always give me the data. The smart switch will always listen to whether I tell it to switch off or switch on. So those primitives and the APIs are quite reliable. The Home Assistant ecosystem is communities using them, lots of people are using them, and help is just a question away. Just ask a question, half an hour, you have an answer. It comes with noise dashboards out of the box, and you have room for personalizing easily what you want. It's not built on microservices. Now, of course, I don't need microservices. It's just one Docker container. It has good integrations, but it's one particular process which does the job. And it has a low cost of ownership. So in terms of CapEx, all I spent was on the Bunnings RLX switch. In terms of OpEx, honestly, I don't monitor it for months. It just works. I don't even have to go and touch it. It took some time to set up the whole thing, but it works. And it's after all this hard work put in, it is equipped to extend. So now I can add automations at a faster pace, at a breeze. It depends on what I'm trying to do. The next hard one is the air conditioner. They've given me a lame integration. So now this talk is really about how to reduce the time and effort to actually get there where you want to get to. And also at the same time, how do you keep it running healthy without spending a lot of time and effort and still building features? And how agile can you be to frequently make quality drops into production? Why is that important? Because honestly, ever than before, the customer is the guinea pig today. So the features get delivered into the hands of the customer. Go try it out. I mean, the quality of testing, half the companies probably don't meet the level they should. So nevertheless, from the business idea is to get the idea out there. So once it's out there, how do you make the offering more substantial without breaking previous functionality? And at the same time, also keep your business profitable and viable before your team gets axed, too costly, you can't run the show. Now how? Now this is probably $1 million question, but it doesn't have any magic bullets. It's just hard work. So I'll focus mainly on two areas today. One is API agility, and then on observability. So I'm sure you've been to many conferences like Apidays, so this topic must have been beaten to death, monoliths versus microservices. So I won't delve deep into it. I'll just highlight one fact. So without good design, that's a monolith. That's microservices. So being agile like you're nowadays, and there has to be good design, upfront design. And the other thing is service-oriented architecture versus event-driven. So sorry, Confluent and Solace are at the event. But service-oriented is a protocol. It's an easy protocol to tie things. It meets the objectives of most companies which are small, or you're trying to integrate with existing services. If you're trying to do something totally new, you want blazing speeds, that's the vision you have, then event-driven, yes, because you react to events. So it's really comparing that to that. So there is risk. So can you afford that risk of going at that speed? This slide is honestly trying to summarize a very good 45-minute talk at GoTo by Simon Brown. I strongly recommend you watch it sometime. hopefully next week after the overdose from this week. So most companies who start on that transformation journey, they start from a monolithic big ball of mud, and they are aiming for microservices. Now that journey ends up being quite long, so unless you're a Spotify or a REA who have lots of people, that journey takes time and you can just run out of time and money. What you end up doing in the time and money you have is you build a distributed big ball of mud. So it's a bigger problem. In fact, I heard No Name Security saying one of their customers has to deploy 300 services in 1 hour. Now, if they didn't do that, they had 3 services to deploy. So if you know you have limited time and effort, which you can spend, then why not, instead of going microservices first, restructure your code and first make it a good design and a modular monolith. You can always add smart things like feature flags and things to deploy that modular monolith into so you might identify a particular piece of code which is time chewing, it gets hit through frequently, or it has different failover requirements. You can deploy that as a monolith later on. So what benefits would this modular monolith give you? First of all, a mono repository. One repository to check out, you can see everything in one place. You have things like code owners, so within the mono repository, you can still be sure that the key stakeholders in front end have the right say on their artifacts. So some important code documents can't be checked in without authority of the right front-end people. Merge request template. Now, this should really not only help the committer. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Sorry. 1 second. Okay. So this should not only help the committer communicate what changes he's making, it's also for reminding the reviewer what things he should look at, not the code level details, but what things he should look at to complete the review in a timely fashion when he's busy doing his things and he's being pushed to press the approve button. So what are the things he should look for? You'll have, of course, less moving parts, so you'll be able to deploy faster. Your platform engineering teams will be very happy with you because you'll defer the need for any aggregation tools till you become a viable business. So till then, you can just look at your monolith, look at its logs. And you, as I said before, you still retain the ability to deploy bits and pieces of that into microservices with feature flags. Now, coding languages, again, this is something we can all be very vocal about. Now, resonating with what Allison said, Java is something you'll get an easy stamp from your business. So in my head is actually growing smaller day by day. So Java is still the easy language for me, the whole ecosystem. Kotlin is trying to extend its life by making it less verbose and sort of also increasing your productivity for day-to-day life. Debugging has always been easy. The security model has always been good. And for deployment, which is a pain point nowadays in Kubernetes because it takes too long, ahead of time compiling is down the track, and that's trying to improve that space. Now, of course, you have a business idea, you want to sell it to your business and get it rolling. Yeah, Ruby, JavaScript, make a quick buck. You have the right team with opinionated frameworks. You, of course, will always have scripting needs on your project to put it all together. Bash is quite low level, but if you want, you can use something like Python, which is much higher level and much more efficient. Last week, I came across an interesting energy lens on languages. So maybe with that too, Java ahead of JavaScript and Ruby and Python. Now, honestly, as a customer delivering APIs, you wish really you were like 5 years down the line, you were on this journey, because this has moved too fast. VMs to Docker to Kubernetes to serverless has been a journey. AWS Lambda V1 sort of championed the serverless mindset, and GCP today doesn't shy away from using that serverless word. And actually, just last month, I heard a conference where GCP really has a very impressive offering in the serverless space called Cloud Run. And it is serverless containers on top of Knative and Kubernetes and whatnot. And what it does for you is there's no cold start issues. One single warmed up container can handle 80 to 100 concurrent requests. So you don't have any of those issues which earlier generation serverless containers had, and it can be GBs and CPUs, all that. So serverless is becoming truly versatile. So if your platform engineers are giving you a lot of crap, Kubernetes is this and that, just ask them to move on. So this is just my wish as a platform engineer, that I wish the cloud infrastructure companies gave us some mock APIs so we can deliver platform code at the speed you guys develop API code. Now I'll skip this topic because API Days is a bit stingy on giving time slots. But yeah, I had something to speak about SQL versus no SQL. I'll come to my pet topic, which has been observability for a few years. It's a hard word, so I try to call it OLI. It's the 11 characters between O and Y. Now, this is probably one biggest thing which will make impact to your day-to-day productivity from day zero. And product owners will not realize this. You have to tell them that. What we tend to do as a mistake is we get excited, new project, new transformation journey, we'll deliver a few features to show the feasibility of the product, and product owners will get excited, okay, they'll start dumping features on you, they'll start making change requests because they gave the features too early, and you never paid attention to logging and monitoring upfront, and that becomes hard. So then your productivity dies, and that becomes the hardest part to retrofit. Your business will often get sold by some company out there a pane of glass, which is a myth. Because soon as a company, after a few things, you realize that you just can't fit everything in one pane. So you have to live with multiple panes for a lot of time, but you need somebody to champion, and honestly, that's unavoidable, but you need somebody to champion that effort to bring that chaos back to some sanity with less pains. Now, this has really worked well at our customers. So we tend to give access to all logs, even in production. Now, of course, you'll question PII, PCI, all that. So the best thing to tackle that, I would say, is mask at source with a whitelist. So there's no room for leaking information. And once you've done that, then you've built the trust in your community that they can all solve the problem. And whenever they get on call, they have access to pretty much everything. One of our customers has taken this to heart, and it has worked very well for them. For any troubleshooting, they start with a trace ID from the application or from the customer, and putting that trace ID in the console, they'll get all the traces, what all systems did it hit, and then it also takes you to the logs for those traces, so it all works beautifully. Add alerting with caution, and actually I've spent, of my 5 years, maybe I've spent 2 years cleaning up the mess. So this is what I wake up to every morning. I've sort of become blind to it. Slack ops for too long. Some companies buy their incident management tool too late. You have to retrofit, and you have to suffer all this over the years. So it's better to be blind rather than have too much alerting. So in terms of, as a key message for this observability, invest in 1 or 2 good tools, know to operate them well. They need not be shiny tools, there could be the good old tools, but know to use them well. Spend time on them, train yourself on them. Structured training, whatever, don't be too agile. So the summary of all this, I think you should have got it, is keep your tech stack simple, clean, and always make sure it's observable. So time for questions, and those who can't be bothered with questions, they can enjoy the content.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Pankaj.
Thank you.
Questions? Jefferson, I'm sure you've got a question.
All clear as mud?
So tell me about your Slack observability. So you showed a lot of Slack channels there, and you get this proliferation of channels.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's an issue. What's the answer to that one?
So get your alerting system, like the alerting management system, like OpsGenie or VictorOps or PagerDuty. Get it as soon as possible. Don't leave it till the end. So one of our customers has left it till now, after 3 years. So I don't even look at those Slack messages. When I'm out of any job, I look at one channel and pick some things. Some engineers do it more than me. So it's just because you have to dedupe the whole noise. And that's where you need to get the right tool as soon as possible.
Right.
Observability is hard, spend time on it.
Okay, great. There's one question down the front.
Quick question. You mentioned masking at source. Can you elaborate a bit more?
So yeah, what you do is basically you build a library to log messages, and ideally it will log JSON messages, and you can feed in a set of fields which it should log. The rest will get masked. So every time you want to add something, you have to actually go and enable that bit. Otherwise, everything else gets masked. So the risk is very low. And then that particular piece of code, you can have better code owners and all that.
Yeah. Have you seen that as a problem if you have a text sprawl? Like, you have to then build it in like...
Yeah, you'll have to. So that's where less languages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think maybe time for one more question. No, that's good. Okay, thanks a lot, Pankaj.